I'm Justin Swensen, field director here at Red Cliff Ascent. I started my wilderness therapy journey in the spring of 1997 here at Red Cliff. And I worked here over a span of just under 8 years, mostly in the field. Had a few positions that took me out of the field, and I kept requesting to go back. The field was my thing. Took a big break. When I came back to the industry, I went to work for Wingate Wilderness Therapy in January of 2010. Worked there for 4 years. And then I transitioned to Legacy Outdoor Adventures. Worked there for 2.5 years. And then there was an opportunity to come back to Red Cliff and work as the field director here. And I was pretty excited to come back full circle and give back here in this program. I live locally, married, 2 kids, and went to college down at Prescott College and got a degree that was closely related to wilderness therapy.
What was your degree?
The official title is the Therapeutic Use of Adventure Education. The class, the curriculum that I studied was essentially the wilderness, ecopsychology, deep ecology, and psychology put together into a degree. So it's heavy on psychology. And then my minor would be in art. Completely different topic.
Yeah.
But related to the work.
Yeah. How do you bring your art into the work?
I love to teach the students art using natural materials as much as possible, like spoon carving, for instance. I fill my bucket by coming out, sitting down in the dirt with them and teaching them how to carve a spoon, or gathering juniper berries that have already been cleaned by a little animal and stringing them up to be a ghost bead necklace or a bracelet. That's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and that I feel like that's one of the things I feel like I have to offer this work, is my passion for the art and crafting.
And juniper bead necklaces, ghost bead necklaces, are a tradition in wilderness therapy that's been around since the earliest days. Students have been making ghost bead necklaces. Can you just say a little bit about what a ghost bead necklace is?
Sure. When I first started wilderness therapy, I think it had a little bit more Native American influence with it. It talked about needing 101 ghost beads on the necklace and needing that last ghost bead for the coyote. That's changed over the years. And then that's not bad either. It's changed in a positive light as wilderness therapy has evolved. And now there's quite a few different stories that are talked about that are just loosely related to that initial.
What are some of the news stories?
Some of the news stories have to do with time in wilderness, that you only have to collect ghost beads until you have 100, and that's in correlation with how many days you spend in the wilderness, which is irrelevant. It's absolutely not true. Another story is a story where there's somewhere along the line there was a warrior that did this great thing and offered it up as a gift to somebody in the spirit world in order to get into the spirit world, which is, I guess, closely related to the original story that I heard. And that the number of juniper berries that are on there now it's insignificant as long as it's just beautiful, and then all the materials are natural. So I've seen students that'll make them with juniper berries, with ghost beads, and with little pieces of bone that they find, or they'll make little wooden beads and stuff like that. And so the idea behind that one is it just has to be all natural materials and handmade, with the exception of the artificial sinew that they use to tie it together. And I've asked about that. They're like, oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if we use that artificial sinew in there. So I'm good with it.
And that's a great project, because anybody can make that.
Absolutely.
You just have to be here.
Yep. Yep. And once you've found that little nest, that rodent's nest with a pile of juniper berries there, juniper beads, as our students call it, I mean, it's like a gold mine. Talk about getting excited about simple things in life. Some of the students will just they're beside themselves with excitement because they found this pile of, ghost beads, these juniper beads.
Yeah. So we find the pile of beads. How do we make a necklace?
There's two ways that I've seen commonly used, either a pair of toenail clippers. So let me back up a step. Those juniper berries, a rodent will usually eat the pulp off the outside. That's why they're piled up. And then in the center there's a hard center core, and then in the very center there's a stem that'll rot out. And so that berry is already partially hollowed out like a bead. So we'll gather them up, take a pair of toenail clippers and clip the other end off, so then you have a hollow section all the way through that bead. So then it's easy to string them up. The other way is to just take a pretty stout needle, like a leather needle, and a Leatherman, and pinch them and just pop them over that needle. I prefer to let them use the toenail clippers. There's less chances of them getting poked with the needle, cutting themselves. I'm sure there's other ways that you could go about getting that end off, but those are probably the toenail clippers would be the most common. Then they'll, after they've clipped the other side, then they'll use a piece of artificial sinew or some piece of cord, typically. If we have a really ambitious and talented, talented student, we'll have them cordage some dog bane or something into a nice little cord, and they'll string their juniper beads on there. But more commonly, it's the artificial sinew. They'll put a length of artificial sinew on a needle and just string them up. And if the staff have some colored beads, or if they've found some little pieces of bone, like some little rodent bones that are under a tree or something like that. Quite often in those nests, you'll actually find little bones, little chunks of bone, and they'll string them on there and gift them. Here at Red Cliff, we actually have a gifting assignment, and they'll use that as their gift for that gifting assignment. Or that's just part of the culture in wilderness therapy, I would say, in a lot of the programs that I'm familiar with, is that, and just with wilderness people in general, I would say there's a culture of gifting. And the field staff bring that in, and then our students get excited about giving those gifts to them.
Yeah. You talk a little bit about that generosity and gifting and what that does to groups, because it is kind of a special thing. And I've noticed as I've gone out and interacted with other communities of my, people that I'm connected to, sometimes it doesn't fit and bewilders people.
Sure, yeah. I was introduced into that culture of gifting when I was quite young. My family was that way. They're big into giving gifts, especially gifts come from a family of artists, so they're always making and crafting things with their hands. So when I came to wilderness therapy, it was exciting to me to see that was going on. And as I watched different people go about doing the things that they do, making little leather bags or whatever it was, they would be excited about making it, particularly if they were making it to give somebody. And I watched them put a lot of love and just positive energy into that, and then they would gift that to them. And sometimes it was in a very ceremonious way. And I would even hear them say things like, I'm putting my energy, my good energy into this, and I'm giving it to you, that you can carry with you to help you through this phase of your journey, or just to remember me, or whatever it is that you're about to embark on. There's this good energy in there to help you along the way. So that was one of the wilderness therapy specific things that I watched happen, is that them giving their energy and their love and intention, like their positive intention into it. It's also a way to show gratitude to people for things that they're doing. I know that I've been the recipient of a few gifts from people in wilderness therapy, and people that are just more, I would say, in the larger wilderness community, without a better way to describe it, where I've had an impact on their life in some way. I've helped them out. Sometimes I knew it, sometimes I didn't. Or there's been some intention behind me doing something for them very specifically. Or even I've helped somebody else along the way that they were acquainted with, and I was gifted this item, this thing that they had made with their hands, in gratitude for that. And then for me, receiving those gifts, it made me feel like I wanted to do the same. Like there was such a positive feeling that came with that. It felt really, really good, and I wanted to share that. So then the next time I had an opportunity to gift somebody for, in gratitude, to share that. Or I guess another example here in wilderness therapy would be, to help, I guess, how would I say that? To help mark transition. When somebody's done, worked hard on change, or worked hard to accomplish some big task, working on themselves or rebuilding relationships, whatever it is, giving a gift to help mark that transition. Or sometimes it may not even really be received as a gift, but more of a token, a gesture of good job, and we're marking this transition. Carry this with you to remind you of this transition, if that makes sense. In the larger wilderness community, outside of just wilderness therapy, I see that type of giving. People just being very open and vulnerable with each other, and giving in the same ways. In gratitude, giving in gratitude, a token of marking some sort of transition in a person's life, or just kindness, just wanting to share the positive intention and the good energy that they have. And I really love participating in that sharing of that energy and talent, and gifting.
Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe. The Primitivus project is made possible by the generous sponsorship of Wingate Wilderness Therapy. To learn more, visit wingatewilderness.therapy.com.